Poetics written by Aristotle, and he is also a classic Greek Western philosopher, and he belongs to 1384 and 384 BC to 322 BC. He belongs to Greece, and this work composed of 26 chapters, and he is a disciple of Plato, and he is the teacher of great Alexander Great. And he studied in Plato's academy. He is a member of a peripatetic school, and Socrates studied under Plato. Plato studied under Aristotle, and Aristotle taught Alexander the Great. And he is a Western philosopher and the first teacher also. Cicero called him as the river of gold, and his own school is called Lyceum. It is in Athens, and he had three unities of drama and the virtue, moral, and he says the virtue and moral are the two supreme ideas of life also. And he depicted the metaphysics the first philosophy, and he is the philosopher and a scientist, and poetics is about the surviving work on dramatic theory, and it is a response to Plato's attack on art, and the main focus is on Greek tragedy, example the epic Homer. And he says the mimesis as the imitation, and art is an imitation, and he depicts the plot as a peripetia and anagnosis. Peripetia means the reversal in the plot, and anagnosis is the recognition of the plot. And he says the epic poetry is similar like the tragedy, and the tragedy is very very superior to epic poetry also. And he says that tragic flaw is a harmatia, and in the incidents in the plots, while tying up the knot is called decis, and untying the knot is called lucis in the plot. And he divided tragedy into 6 parts. They were the mythos means the plot, that is the main part, and the character, thought, diction, melody means the songs, and the spectacle. This is very very important, these 6 points. And moving on to the next, he says that he differentiate the kinds of poetry also. He says that epic, tragedy, comedy, lyric, dithyrambs, poetry, and flute playing. And he says the painter paints, and the sculpture engrave in the stones, but poet use language and rhythm to create the poetry. And he says the Homer as the poet of poetry, and Empedocles who wrote his philosophy in verse. And he says tragedy epic as the which shows the character better than us, and the comedy and parody which shows the character worse than us. And he says poetry is superior to all, even more superior to history. And he says the quality elements of tragedy as the prologue, episodes, exord, and choral portion, parode, and stagismon. And he says the Homeric epic have a direct narratives and indirect narrative also, and he divide plot into simple plot and complex plots. And he always advise complex plots as the best one, because they have further divided into peripetia and anagnosis. Peripetia means the reversal of fortune, and anagnosis means the discovery or recognition. And through this criticism, Aristotle has defined how a tragedy should be written very clearly.